All right, folks, we're going to go ahead and get started. We're going to have to just sign in as we go. We have a little bit of presentation first, and then we'll do a demo. So hopefully the tech will get resolved, but we're running out of time if we wait any longer. So let's go ahead and start. As always, if you've been here before, just make sure you check with your broker before you try any of this stuff. Make sure you get approval to be advertising and get your copy approved as well. So what we're talking about today are two specific kinds of ads that you can set up on Facebook, and both of these are really good for collecting leads. So we're going to be talking about lead generation, ads, and a little bit of strategy. So this is going to be mostly a how-to step-by-step. So we got a couple slides to start. So one of the questions we often get are, do Facebook ads work? And this is also, Facebook owns Instagram, so everything we're talking about in terms of ads, also applies to Instagram in a lot of ways. And the truth is, Facebook ads don't work for a lot of small businesses because they're not doing them properly. So what the key here is that you have to be strategic about your ads. If you're just throwing something out there and crossing your fingers that you're going to get results, in the end you will probably lose money. So you want to make sure that you're doing them strategically and that there's actually a plan in place. A lot of times if you do something one time, it will never work. So you need to make sure there's a long-term strategy. So if you're going to start doing ads on Facebook, as we've talked about before, you got to make sure you have that strategy in place. So let's talk about what these types of ads are and why they are useful to you. So the first thing you got here is a lead ad. So a lead ad is essentially, it's a landing page. So does anybody have landing pages on their website that they send people to? Okay, a couple hands. So a landing page, the idea behind a landing page is to give people more information without giving them lots of options in terms of where they go next. So a properly designed landing page only lets the person do one thing, and that is sign up to talk to you. So if you have an ad that says, hey, are you looking to, just in this is an example of an ad we're actually running right now. So this would say, you're looking to find a South City home to buy. I can help you find the perfect 1 or 2 bedroom house for your needs. Obviously very simple and straightforward. When they click that Learn More button, you don't want to send them to a blog post. You don't want to send them to your website homepage because that gives them too many options. You want to send them to a page where all they can do is sign up for more information, right? So when you do a lead ad, rather than going to your actual website, that landing page pops up right on Facebook. So that's the advantage of a lead ad, is that there are no other paths they can follow. There's no other buttons they can press. There's no blog to get lost reading. All they're going to do is fill out their information and hit submit. You have a question? Yeah.
You said it says open a contact form on Facebook. Does Facebook provide anything for us like that, or do we have to make the form?
So they're going to give you a template. So, and then we'll show you this in a second. But all this stuff in here is a template, so you can put your image in here. You can write this text here, and then you can tell them what kind of information you want to collect. So the email, full name, and phone number, those are things you, and then the other nice thing is that if Facebook has this information, it will automatically put it in there for them, right? So a lot of times what the behavior looks like is they see this ad on their news feed. They go, oh yeah, I do actually want to see about finding a 1 or 2 bedroom house. They click on this button, this form pops up, and all of this stuff is already inserted for them. So they can change it, like if they want to use a different email, but whatever they use to log into Facebook already shows up. So all they have to do is basically click this button and then click submit on this form, and they stay on Facebook. So that's why this is so useful, because it doesn't take them to another website. So that means there's no load time. It doesn't interrupt their behavior. So you can imagine if somebody's on their phone and they're looking at the Facebook app and they click something that takes them to a different site, that usually kind of distracts them. This keeps them right there. It makes it nice and streamlined. So we're going to go over how to set these up. This is just kind of explaining what they are for now. The other kind of ad we're going to talk about today, and this can be especially useful. I actually would probably prefer to use messenger ads than lead ads. It depends on what you're advertising a little bit. But this is what's called a messenger ad. And the big difference here is that the ad is going to look pretty much the same. You can lay it out however you want. This is a video ad, so it's a little bit different. We have a little bit more text at the top there. But when they hit that send message button, what it's going to do is it's going to open up their messenger on Facebook, and they're going to start a conversation with you. So we're not going to talk a lot about chatbots today, but one popular way to do this is to have them click on that send message button and then have a chatbot that's ready to interact with them. And so an example of that would be, they click on it, they want some more information, the chatbot automatically responds and says, hey, I've got this downloadable guide, so maybe a first-time home buyer guide. Click here to download it. And if they do click that, it might follow up and say, great, thanks for downloading it. Let me know a little bit about what you're looking for. Are you a first-time home buyer or have you purchased a home before? And they'll have buttons they can press, right? So a chatbot is something that's going to have a short conversation automatically for you with the client or the prospect, and it's going to qualify them. It's going to learn about them and collect some information. The simpler way to do it is to just talk to them yourself, obviously, but that means you need to be actively responding to their messages. So if you use a messenger ad, you either need to have a chatbot set up or you need to make sure that you're able to get on your phone and actually respond to them and answer their questions. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about writing ad copy. So again, today's presentation is mostly technical. We're going to mostly be showing you how to set these ads up. And you could spend days and days and days talking about how to write good ad copy, but I want to just give you a couple quick tips here. So one of the first things you always want to do is you generally want to start by asking a question at the top of your ad. So a lot of times the very first thing you want people to see is a question, because that's going to interrupt that scroll. So if you think about everything you're doing on Facebook or on really any social media, is you're interrupting the person that's scrolling. You need to catch their attention so they stop and they actually look at your post, right? You guys need to get set up. So a lot of times if you start with a question, you're going to catch the attention of the right people and you're going to push away the wrong people. So for instance, if you say, are you thinking about buying a house? Well, if people are, they might stop and read the rest of it. If they're not, they don't really need to. They're probably going to continue on. So you got to have a short and specific question. If you ask a question that's 20 words long, they're probably not going to read the whole thing, right? So try to get a, under 10 words kind of length and even shorter if you can. You need to make sure that you're speaking directly to their situation. So the more kind of narrow you can be here, the better. So if you for instance, if you say thinking about buying your house versus thinking about, buying your first house, that's more specific, right? We're talking about first-time buyers versus just buyers in general. So the more you can be specific to their situation. So the other thing is if you know they're renters, you might say like sick of paying rent, right? You want to talk exactly to the thing you think they're going through. And we've talked about this in previous trainings, but that's why you need to be so clear about your customer avatar. That's why you got to be really clear about who you want to attract with your ads. If you try to talk to everyone, no one listens. You try to talk to a specific person, all the people that are like that person will pay attention, right? So you need to make sure you're talking exactly about the thing they're going through. And then you also want to make sure you're talking about pain points and their fears. So marketing can be fear-based or it can be aspirational, and a lot of times you're actually going to combine those two things. So the first thing you want to be addressing is what are they experiencing? Like what is their pain that they're going through, right? Because obviously you can try to figure out how to buy or sell a house by yourself, and people do, but obviously you're providing them a service and you're taking a lot of that pain away that they might be experiencing, so you need to be addressing that pain, right? So for instance, back to our renter example, you may want to address, ask them, hey, are you sick of throwing money away and feel like, are you getting frustrated? You're always paying rent every single month and you're just basically paying somebody else's mortgage on the place you're living. That's a good way to kind of get them engaged. You want to get them riled up just a little bit with that copy. Once you've done that, once you've caught their attention with that question and you're starting to talk about what that pain is they're experiencing, you want to move on to building up the possibilities, right? So we talked about the fear side of it or the pain side. Now you want to be a little bit more aspirational. So as you're writing that, the rest of the copy, it needs to be all about, hey, it's okay. It's okay to be frustrated that you're sick and tired of paying rent, because I'm going to show you how you can buy a house for the first time, and it's a lot easier than you expect, and I'm going to basically hold your hand the whole way, right? You might also want to talk about, hey, that amount of rent you're paying might actually buy you a bigger house than what you're currently living in, right? So get them excited about kind of what can be, so to speak. And then in your copy, you always want to have a call to action, abbreviated as CTA. One of the two kind of biggest mistakes I see with the way that people write ads on this side of it is they either don't have a call to action, so they write some, hey, I'm going to help you out, it's going to be so great, and there's just nothing that tells the person what to do next. If you don't tell somebody what to do next, they will do all kinds of random things. They might share your video, they might ignore it, they might not do anything. You got to be really clear about what you want them to do. The other mistake I see a lot of small business owners make is they have too many calls to action. So what do you think the ideal number of CTAs is? One, right? Just one. Never more than one. If you tell people to do two things, they won't do either of them. For those of you that have kids, you probably understand that one, right? So a couple options of what a CTA could be. You might want to tell people to click the button below. So if you're trying to get them, again, the two examples we talked about, we're showing you today, the messenger and the lead ads, that's what you want them to do is click a button. So you might say click the button below. If it's not that kind of ad, you may tell them to do something else. So maybe you want them to share the video. So if you have an example would be you have a video about how to get pre-qualified for a loan, you might say, hey, share this video with someone you know that's been thinking about buying a house. So that hopefully they'll go ahead and share it with one of their friends, right? You can ask people to comment. So if you're trying to get engagement, maybe you're trying to get people to kind of start a conversation with you, that's great. And then send me a message is also another good one. Although a lot of times if I'm going to ask them to send me a message, I'm going to run a messenger ad and I'm going to tell them to click the button below. Because click a button is a little bit more direct than send me a message. Sometimes send me a message can get confusing. People will comment or they're not sure what you mean, they're not sure if you want an email. So click the button below is a lot of times the most direct way to catch people's attention. And then another kind of side note, something you want to consider as you're writing your copy here is you see all these kind of emojis over here on the side of the screen. Those grab people's eye, right? So emojis exist because they help us express emotions and feelings better than normal text can. That's why we have these pictures we've kind of added to our written language in a way. But they also just grab your eye as you're scrolling through Facebook. So if you see a post that has a lot of emojis in it, you tend to look at it a little bit longer because, again, we're drawn to images, right? Like we like to be told stories. That's kind of how we work. So that's going to draw you in. So you want to make sure you're using emojis, not just random ones. Try to be a little, intelligent about which ones you use. So for instance, if you are talking about how frustrating it can be to keep paying somebody rent and not own your own place, you might want to put the little frustrated face emoji at the end of that sentence, right? You can also surround key parts of the copy with emojis on both sides. So like this fire one here, this one you'll see a lot. There'll be like a couple flames on the beginning of a sentence and the end, and that draws your eye to that sentence. So if you have maybe that line where you say like, you don't have to keep paying rent, there is another way. Like maybe you want to surround that with those, and that's going to draw their eye in. The other version of that you can do, and you might want to combine the two, is to use capitalization to highlight specific words. So if there's if you're going to write a long piece of copy, you want to make sure that you're highlighting the words in there that you want to stand out. So basically what you're ultimately trying to do is you're trying to paint a picture or tell a story, right? So you want people, and this is not everyone, you want the ideal person that you're trying to speak to feel like you're talking about them. And that's why you can't try to talk to everybody, because if you try to talk to everybody, you're ultimately talking to no one. And if you try to talk to a specific person, like really get in and get granular with your detail, you're going to really paint a picture for that exact kind of person. They're going to be really drawn to that copy. So again, if you think about the kind of person who's buying a house for the first time versus the kind of person who's considering buying a second home on the lake, those people are in very different places in their lives. And if you talk to one, it's not going to appeal to the other. It's going to appeal a lot to the one you're really honing in on. All right, so I want to read, I'm just going to read you an example. You can go ahead and take a picture of this if you want. It'll be in the recording and the slides later as well. But this is just an example of just one way of writing copy. And you'll notice if you see this on Facebook, this is probably a lot longer than what most other real estate agents are doing right now, right? A lot of agents are still stuck, 4 or 5 years ago when you could just throw up a picture of a house and say, hey, you're looking to buy a home, click here, because nobody was advertising back then. So there wasn't many of them. So now people, the rule in marketing is once something becomes popular, you should stop doing it. If someone else is starting to do it, you should stop doing it, right? Stop doing it.
That's good advice.
Yeah, it's what's frustrating. So if you ever hire somebody to help you with your advertising in particular, and you want to ask them, hey, show me lots of results. Prove to me that this works, that you've done it for a bunch of people and all that kind of stuff. If they can show you that, you probably shouldn't use that particular technique. Because that means they've been doing it for a while, and it's probably not working very well anymore, right? So a lot of times the biggest opportunities in marketing, and that's why we're kind of so focused on video in our company, the biggest opportunities are in the things people are not doing very much yet, right? So looking at what are people going to be doing a lot of in a few years, start doing it now, and when they all start doing it, move on to the next thing. So the most innovative marketers you'll find are the ones that are kind of approaching it that way. So that can be frustrating, obviously, but marketing is a lot about experimentation. So I'm just going to read this for you. I think everybody got a chance to copy it. So basically what this says, so if you think you're scrolling through Facebook, just think about as you're scrolling through, obviously, this is for somebody who's renting. So it says, what are some of the problems that come with renting your home? Not able to decorate, nagging landlord, pet restrictions, no yard, lack of parking, noisy neighbors. So see what we've done? We've kind of honed right in on all the problems they're currently experiencing. And we give them a couple options. So if they're not experiencing one, maybe another one catches their eye. Then it says, let me ask you something. How have all those problems affected your life so far? Have they affected your mood, your stress levels, your relationship? So again, we're really hyping up that fear and that pain point. So if somebody's still reading at this point, they've probably experienced some of this stuff. So we've really kind of honed in on the right person. And then we tell them, hey, listen to me. You do want to have your own home eventually, don't you? Now is the time. I can help you find the right home at the right price. Just tap the button below, and you'll automatically be on your way to solving your renting problems forever and feeling the security and freedom that comes with home ownership, right? So now this part is aspirational. We're getting them a little bit, we told them, hey, we understand your pain. We have the solution for it, right? So if you pay attention to advertising, TV commercials, things like that, a lot of times you'll see it follows this structure. There's something at the beginning of the commercial that shows, oh, isn't it frustrating when this thing happens? You know, look at how we can fix it for you. Look how everything's great after you hired us or bought our product. All right, so talking a little bit more about Messenger before we kind of get into our demo here in a couple minutes. The reason that Messenger is kind of one of my favorite types of advertisements to run is that Facebook Messenger is kind of like email and text messaging combined into one platform and then adding a whole bunch of other features into it. So you can do a whole range of things with Messenger that you can't do with a lot of other types of tools. And we're kind of just starting to even kind of break the surface of what's possible there. So it's a direct message to someone, right? So it's very much like a text. So if you want to think of it that way, text messaging is probably the most similar. But one of the things you can do with Messenger is you can send a lot of things you can't through text. Now I know you can send a video through text, but when it comes through Messenger, basically it's just a video they can click on and play, no problems, right? Depending on who you're sending it to through text, that doesn't always happen. You can attach documents, which is pretty nice. And again, they're either on their phone or their computer, so they're easy to open. And then probably the biggest one here is you can respond with chat bots. So I mentioned that earlier, so I want to kind of hone in on that for just a couple seconds. So the service that we use, if you want to write this down, is ManyChat. I think it's all one word, ManyChat. What's probably the most exciting thing about this is that as soon as someone clicks that send message button, your chat bot can be set up to automatically start talking to them immediately. So this is not something where it takes 30 seconds or a couple minutes or hours. It happens right away. And what it can do is it can start asking them questions for you right away. So if we wanted to qualify a lead in the past, a lot of times you have to call them, you have to ask them questions, what kind of home you're looking for, or they had to fill out a really long form. The problem with long forms is every additional question you put on a form, so many less people fill it out. So if you have a form of 12 questions, no one ever fills it out. That's why a lot of forms like just your email. And then they'll send you an email to try to ask more questions then, but a lot of times we don't get responses that way, right? So the chat bot, they click one button, they're subscribed. So as soon as they click a button or they do anything in the messenger, they're subscribed to your messenger list. And just like email, you're allowed to send them messages in the future. So you can continue broadcasting to them, right? However, you can also have these automatic questions that show up in their chat and they have button responses. So that's the big difference here is all I have to do is click a button to respond. So an example of this would be they sign up, right? They say, hey, I want to learn more about how I can skip renting and buy a house for the first time. Maybe the first question you send them is, how soon would you like to move? And you give them 3 or 4 buttons, right? 1 to 2 months, 2 to 4 months, so on and so forth. All they have to do is click one of those buttons, and as soon as they click the button, the next question automatically shows up. So you can kind of probably see here, within maybe a minute or two, they can probably answer 4 or 5 questions for you, and it's all in a streamlined process. They didn't have to go to their email and open anything. They didn't even have to leave Facebook. They're still on Facebook, right?
For the realtors that you're helping, how successful is that? Because we all know, and we all get them,
Sure.
responses, and you're like, I'm not telling you all this stuff. I don't know who you are, and your blood type and your social security number.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the response?
So we've only done a couple chat bots. I mean, it's kind of a newer thing, but it's substantially better than anything we've ever done. Put it that way. So if you compare it to email, for instance, and this is from broadcasting. This isn't. So this is like, let's say somebody signs up a messenger, and a week later you want to send them something. So like, let's say you have a new listing you want to promote to your list, right? The open rate on messages through Messenger is about 95% on average. So that means almost every single person you send the message to opens it. The click-through rate, so if you have a link to that listing, is about 5 times higher than it is in email. So if like 2% would have clicked through on email, more like 10% are going to click through on Messenger, right? So it comes back to what I said earlier about like if everybody's doing it, you should stop. Like everybody's been doing email for a long time. Now email is still valuable. We collect emails, we send email messages. I'm not saying you should stop email altogether. And the one reason I would say never stop email is that when you have someone's email, you have permission to contact them however you want. Things you do through Messenger is still technically owned by Facebook. So if Facebook decides to say, oh, you're not allowed to send messages anymore unless you pay us, they're allowed to do that, right? Versus an email, you can always send somebody email. There's catches on emails as well, but that's kind of the main reason to consider keep collecting email at the very least. But as much as you can communicate through Messenger, you're going to get better engagement. So I know a lot of companies that, more in the tech space, not the real estate space, but a lot of tech companies now, they don't touch email hardly at all. So they're just doing this Messenger stuff.
Our clients are getting to that point too, so that's good to know.
Yeah. Yep. So I would say in the next couple of years, I mean, chat bots can do a lot of things, but I think this particular part is probably the biggest opportunity. Because advertising and marketing is becoming more personalized. Everything we see feels more, directed towards us because of all the data and the targeting that can be done. And this allows you to segment people into different lists. So, for instance, you could also ask a question about like, what price range are you looking in, right? They have 5 buttons and they pick their price range. Well, now they're segmented. So when you have a new listing you want to promote, you don't send it to everybody. You send it to the people that said they're interested in that price range, right? And you got to remember, advertising can feel a lot like I just want to put a bunch of stuff out there and see what works. But the thing you have to keep in mind, especially because there's so many ads out there now, is the more you talk to people about stuff they're not interested, the more annoyed they get. So we're getting more towards, hey, rather than just broadcasting as much as you can, only talk to the people that the thing matters to, and you're going to keep better relationships with everybody that way. If I just keep broadcasting everything to everyone, like if I sent my real estate marketing tips email to all the small businesses on our list, a lot of them they're going to start to give like, well, why are they sending me this? They're sloppy. They don't know what they're doing. It's not a good look, right? So that's why this segmentation stuff is really kind of a huge opportunity. And then the other part is just kind of teaching and educating people once they have signed up on Messenger. Anytime you make a video, that's like what we do with our clients is a lot of video. So anytime you send a video or make a video, go ahead and put it in Messenger and broadcast it out to everybody. It's an easy way to pick up some extra views as well. So I forgot I had the stats here. Here's the answer to your question in a lot of ways, right? So in some cases, you can actually get a 12x higher click-through rate on than the email. So that's obviously a big part of the reason why you want to use this stuff. And then the last part here is just about, this is the difference in my opinion between the lead form and the messenger, even if you're using a chatbot. And it's basically just that the messenger conversation is more of the beginning of a relationship than somebody filling out a form. So someone who fills out a form and clicks a couple buttons and maybe receives an automated response by email is going to have very, very little affinity. They're not going to know you much, right? They're not going to trust you that much. Someone that has a conversation with you through Messenger is already starting to build that relationship a little bit. And I think that's where we're pushing all of our clients towards, hey, stop thinking about people as leads and start thinking of them as actual people and just build relationships with them. And in the long term, you're going to get a lot more business that way. And I think that's one thing that's kind of cool about Messenger. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get into the demo. So basically what we're trying to do right now, does everybody have connection, or you got somebody next to you that's got a connection? Well, you'll watch what I'm doing, but so I'll be up here. So, does everybody know how to get to the Ads Manager? Do we need to go over that again? I'm assuming that means you're able to get to the Ads Manager. So first thing you want to do is open up your ads manager. Okay, so if you're on Facebook, what you need to do to get to the ads manager is come down here under Explore, and it'll say Ads Manager, or come down under Create and click on Add. This is on your home screen. So when you log into Facebook, or if you want to hit the Facebook button right there, and then you'll see shortcuts, you'll see Explore, and then Create. And you either click Ads Manager or you can click Create, or Add under Create. So on the home screen, actually, if you're not sure, watch our last video. So just go back to the last video. We went over this a couple times, but this is just your home screen. You go to the left-hand side, go to Explore, and click Ads Manager. That's going to take you to this screen. So once you're in Ads Manager, the other thing you can do is just go to facebook.com/adsmanager. So everything right here. So just write that down if you're not sure how to get here, and that'll take you right to this. All right, so for those of you that weren't here last time, I want to do just a quick recap of what we see on the screen here for you. So if you don't have any advertisement campaigns running, you won't see anything under campaign name. So everything under here will be blank. Obviously, I have a bunch of campaigns that we've run. So there's 3 levels to a campaign on Facebook. There's the campaign level, and that's kind of a basic level. There's not much information in that. Inside of the campaign, you have your ad set. And what your ad set is that's the targeting. So the ad set is where you decide who's going to see the ad. It's where you decide how much money you're going to spend on the ad. And it's also where you can say how long the ad should run or when it should run. So for instance, you can have ads that only run on Thursdays. Or you can have ads that only run, for 2 weeks around Thanksgiving or whatever you want to do. And you can schedule that out, years in advance. So but primarily ad set is where you're choosing who's going to see the ad. And then the third level is the ad itself. So this is the creative part. This is the picture or video, and then it's also the text that you write for that, the copy, all right? So what we're going to do is if we want to create a new campaign, a new ad, we'll go ahead and start with the lead ad real quick. We're going to click right here where it says Create. It's this big red button. It's pretty hard to miss, so the little plus there, you go ahead and click on that. And that's going to start, it's going to create a new campaign. If you want to edit a or if you want to add things to an existing campaign, you click there. So we're going to click Start Over. All right. So the first thing you're going to want to select here is what is the objective. We'll just highlight that real quick, right? So you're looking for the objective. So in our case, we are generating leads. So we're going to go ahead and click on Lead Generation. Then right here is where you give your campaign a name. So I might say first time home buyer. Objective is lead generation. All right. Go ahead and ignore these 2 things here. 99% of the time you're not going to mess with those. And then just click continue. So real quick recap is if you're doing a lead ad, click lead generation, give the campaign a name, and then click continue. So obviously the campaign step is not the hardest, right? Now the next part we're coming into, this is the ad set. So this is again where we're choosing who we're targeting. Now this is a part that if you've ever boosted a post, Facebook will recommend a couple different kinds of groups of people to target. You can do a lot more targeting through this step than you can through boosting a post. So if you're looking at this, I'm sorry it's taking a while to load, but if you're looking at this going, oh, well, I can boost a post and it does the same thing, it does not do the same thing. You can boost those, you can target those same audiences, but there's a whole bunch of additional things that you can target in here. So, okay. So first thing you need to do is if you have multiple pages, you need to select the page you want to advertise. We'll just use my own. Okay, so this is my kind of personal branding page. Just has my name. So that just to be clear, this is not my personal account. This is a separate page I created that has my name on it. Okay, so So this is a business page. It's asking me to agree to their latest terms. Let's do that real quick. All right, so now we scroll down a little bit. So first thing you want to look at is over here, this is your approximate audience size. So if you don't change anything, it's going to target everybody in the United States. 220 million people in the United States are on Facebook, right? Yeah, you're gonna spend a lot of money, or you're gonna not get in front of the right people. That's for sure, right? Now you're also gonna tell it how much money you want to spend, so it's probably not gonna show your ad to everybody because you're not gonna spend enough money. You're not gonna spend millions of dollars, right? So you want to make sure that's really why it's so important that you really hone in on this. So right here is how many people it could potentially reach, but down here, this is the information that is based on how much money you're spending. So I'm gonna skip ahead for just a second to show you something. Right down here, it defaults to $20 a day for the budget. So based on $20 a day, this ad will reach anywhere from 450 to 2,800 total people. And this right here is complete nonsense. Just ignore this number. I don't know how they try to tell you how many leads you're gonna get, because they don't even know what the ad looks like yet. So just ignore that leads number. But this reach number usually is somewhat accurate. You're gonna get somewhere in that range. And that you're gonna see this change as we start to do our targeting. So we went over targeting at the last training, so I'm not gonna spend too much time here because really the ad setup is the part we're training today, but I do wanna just recap really quickly. So first thing you can do is you can load custom audiences. So if you've created an audience based on, for instance, so this is right here is people who have watched at least 3 seconds of one of our videos at some point in the past, right? So there's 8,400 total people in there, etc. There's a whole bunch of different audiences we've created. The other thing you can do is a saved audience. So if you made an audience before that you want to reuse, you can go ahead and select them in here, all right? Below that, you're going to have location. So this is where you're targeting where people live. So obviously we don't need everybody in the United States. We're going to go ahead and look for St. Louis here. St. Louis DMA, that's the overall kind of greater St. Louis region. And it's going to highlight that on the map and show you exactly where these people are. So now what I'm doing is anybody who's in this area is currently being targeted. So I can switch it to people who live in the area, people who are recently in the area, and people who are traveling. I just usually leave it at everyone. So everybody in that highlighted region is currently targeted. Now you see this is down to 2.3 million, which makes sense. That's about, there's about 3 million people in the greater St. Louis area. That would make sense. There's about 2.3 that are on Facebook. Then you can select the age range, you can select the gender, you can target certain languages. So if you speak a second language, you want to try to attract clients that speak that language, you can put it there. And then this is where you get into the interesting stuff. So your detailed targeting, you're going to be able to target demographics, interests, or even behaviors. So for instance, if I want to target people who are interested in golf, I can type in golf and I can select that. So to be honest, that's the kind of stuff I recommend a lot of times, is target people based on their interests that you can build a relationship around. Right? We don't necessarily need to just target people who are looking for real estate every single time. Because a lot of the stuff is about getting in front of people and kind of working with them over time. But you can also target real estate stuff. So type in real estate. You can look for people who are interested in real estate. This is a B2B sort of thing, so people are owners or employees of a business in the real estate industry. You probably don't want to target that because you'd probably be targeting yourself in that case. You can look for Zillow. So if you want to target people that are interested in Zillow, that's obviously usually a good one. We'll just experiment. Oh, let's just look at that category real quick. Okay, so we're going to move on to the ads in just a second, but you can get an idea here. So if I look at people who it says they're interested in Zillow in this area, I get 360,000 people. So you want to play around with that, get that number down to at least 5,000 or less. You don't need to be advertising to hundreds of thousands of people because you'll just spend too much money and you won't be in front of them often enough. So let's just narrow this. Let's narrow it a little bit further, and let's say we're looking for Zillow and people who also like HGTV. Oh, there's so many people like HGTV, it's still down to 110,000. So let's narrow it even further, just for the sake of curiosity here. So you can do, so an example of that would be, so they've changed some of these categories, but yeah, you can currently target like people with certain income ranges. So if you want to say like people that make over, let's say, between 250 and 350, we can target those folks. So now we got a really narrow audience, right? So this is everybody in St. Louis, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They actually are getting rid of that category. That's why this notification popped up here. So you won't be able to target this stuff anymore, but this just so you get an idea. Income, yeah. And so it's going to be mostly demographic and interest targeting, and not as much, not as much of the demographics. That's all the partner category stuff. That's not stuff Facebook knows directly, and they're eliminating some of that. Then you set your budget, and we're just going to skip past this part for now. Again, if you have questions on this, go back to the previous recording. Jennifer can provide that for you, and we're going to go ahead and click continue. So now this is the part where we're going to actually set up the lead ad. All right, so we have our page selected. You can also attach an Instagram account if you want this ad to run on Instagram. And what we need to do is we would select an image. So I'm just going to, yeah. You just got to pay for the impressions. So on Facebook, you pay per time the ad is shown. So it's going to, however you want to do it, you just got to pay for it, right? So it's not going to show you ahead of time. It's going to spend your money based on where you tell it to target. So you tell it how much money to spend a day. So like we said, $20 a day. It's going to break that up between Instagram and Facebook based on how people, like when people are on the internet. It's all an algorithm, so you can't you can control it if you want to set up an ad just for Instagram and then a separate one for Facebook. You can do that. It's just you had to go through the process the second time. And then we didn't talk about placement, but this one right here, placements. Just hop back real quick. There it is. I left it at automatic, so it's going to decide for you. But if you click Edit Placements, that's where you can decide if you want it to show up on Instagram or not. So if you want to separate it so you can control, I want to spend $3 a day on Instagram and 10 on Facebook or whatever you want to do, you just set up 2 separate campaigns or 2 different ad sets. And select one for one and then select the other for the other one. Okay, so back here, your format, you're going to select, I would just start with single image. It's just a single image you're going to use. I would probably use an image of a house that you actually are selling, for instance, or something you have permission to use. You can also go in here and select free stock images. So if you want to select, look for homes. It's going to search based on keywords, but let's just grab that for fun here. And again, I would use actual pictures because people can tell when the house looks like it's from your part of the country and not. So like we go around, like if I go for a walk in St. Louis, downtown, or I live in the city, I'll just like take pictures of random houses while I'm out so that I have stuff to use in these. So it's going to have that picture in here. Just go to add more images, and then you can upload it from there. That's where you add your pictures. And then this is where you create your ad. So, okay, yeah. So this is where you type, so the text section is where you type your copy. So, just to show you where it shows up. This is the ad preview over here. So that copy shows up at the top there. See where it says sick of renting? So that's where you write all that stuff I showed you earlier. I'm not going to do it right now because I want to show you the actual setup process. That's where you would type in all of your text. You can also add a headline if you'd like. And put that in there, and it'll show you again where that updates. And then down here is where you select the button text, right? So a lot of times, like learn more is probably the most common button that you'll see on Facebook. And again, this will show up here once it decides to load. Okay, so that's where you write the ad. Again, this is stuff we went over in the last training, so if you want a more detailed explanation, go back to that recording, but you can see here, this is where the headline shows up, and then that's where the button is. Okay, so this is the ad they see. Now what makes this a lead ad, and because we said, hey, we want to make our objective is lead generation, it automatically sets it up as a lead ad. So that's where this part is. So this is the lead form section. So this is where you create that landing page thing I mentioned earlier, right? So we're going to go ahead and click new form. All right. And so what this is going to do is this is the preview of what the ad. So if somebody clicks learn more, they're going to see this little pop up over here. This is what's going to pop up on Facebook. And so now we're setting that up. So more value. So the first thing you want to look at is what is the type of form? Do you want to get more leads or do you want to get better leads? So do you want a lot of volume? You want to make it really easy for people to sign up, or do you want less people to be able to sign up, but they're going to have a better likelihood of turning into customers? To be honest, I'm a bigger fan of that. I don't like getting tons of leads and spending all day calling them. I'd rather get people that are more interested. But either one. So the difference is the one for higher intent, it adds a review step. So they have to confirm their information before they submit it. So it just kind of slows the process down, and it means the people that go, I don't know why I'm signing up for this, they leave, right? So you kind of get rid of those folks. So like I said, I'm a fan of that. All right, so this is the nice thing about this is it shows you step by step how to set it up. So you can have an intro. You can see obviously on here it's optional. So if you type in anything, it's going to show up right here. That's where the intro goes. So you might say something like, you know, you don't have to pay rent. All right, so that's the intro. And then the layout, so just so you can see where that shows up. So the intro is going to be here in larger text, and then this is the paragraph section. And you can also do bullet points. If you want to do bullet points, you can add some different point. You know, stop, rent, build equity, be cool. Whatever you want to say, right? So bullet points can be kind of cool because that catches their eye a little bit. So again, you want to think about, you know, what would you put on a landing page? So if you're driving people to a landing page on your website, what kind of information do they normally see there? Just bring it into here. Up here, you're going to have the image. So you can reuse the same image if you want. You can put a picture of if you have like a picture of yourself with, you know, happy to help sort of written on it or something like that. Go ahead and click there to upload it. All right, and then if you see over here, this is set up. So now we're going to go to questions. And this is this next section. So we wrote all this text in. Now we're gonna ask what we want to collect from them. So again, you can put another headline in here if you want. If you need to tell them more information, we're going to skip that because again, that's optional. You know, the less you put in here, the better. Because if your ad was well written, people just want to click on it and sign up. So you don't need to put a ton of information in here and confuse them. So now the next thing is it's going to automatically default to asking for their email and their full name. So if you want more, you got to click more options, and it's going to give you all of these. So these are all the different things you can automatically add. So I can add, I want their phone number, I want their street address, a zip code. You know, you can even get into this stuff. You want to know their marital status, etc. Again, every single one of these you add makes it less likely they will fill out the form. So for your purposes, I would stick to maybe name, email, and phone number, or even just name and email, right? So if you're just gonna, you know, if you have like an email auto-response you can connect it to, but name, email, and phone number is pretty standard. Those are also the three things Facebook's most likely to automatically fill for them. If you start asking for things like their zip code or their work phone number, it's not automatically filled, so they're gonna have to go type it in. So again, it's an extra step they have to do. So I'll just leave those selected, and if you look over here, now you can see it asks these additional questions, okay? And again, if you put contact information like email or phone number, it even says this company or person may contact you to follow up. It's going to make that very clear to them. And then if you have a custom question, so you really want to screen a lot of people out, you don't want to waste your time talking to anybody who's not really interested, you can add an additional question. They can be multiple choice, short answer, conditional, or they can even schedule an appointment. You know, so that might be kind of cool is to get them scheduled. Again, every additional step makes it less likely they'll finish filling it out. So just, but there are some options there. All right, next thing is you need a privacy policy. So this is just something you have to link to, but it needs to be on your website. So you should already have a privacy policy. Like you really shouldn't have a website without one anyway. But you do need to put your privacy policy in here. So for the link text, you probably just say privacy policy. Didn't spell it right. Oh my gosh, sorry. and then that's where you put the link. So if you're not sure about that, ask your IT person or whoever built your website or helped you with that. Last thing, this is the review screen. All right, so now this is the step, just as a reminder, if we went back up here to form type, because we said higher intent, we required this review screen to be on here. If we click more volume, that goes away. Now there isn't a review screen. So that's what that is for. This is just to make sure, hey, it's a reminder to the person, hey, you're going to give them your information. Are you sure you want to do that? Some people are going to go, actually, you know what? No, I don't want to do that, and they're going to leave, right? But that could be a good thing. If you're getting a lot of leads, you may not want all the kind of price shoppers, so to speak, or the people that aren't quite ready to work with you. So that's up to you if you want to have the review screen. It's just going to ask them to confirm it, and then they have to slide this over to submit it. And then the last thing is the thank you page. This is what shows up after they submit their information. So where this is cool is you can put a view website button, and you can, for instance, drive them straight to the page on your website with listings. So if you want, if they're looking for a house, if you, hey, I'll be in touch soon. Go ahead and check out all of the listings we have available currently. You can drive them there. So you can do view website, you can have them download something, you have them call you, and then obviously the headline is right here, and then the description is right here. So this is the thank you page is something that's overlooked by a lot of businesses. This is a really good opportunity to continue moving them through the buying process. So they've just submitted their information. You're going to have some time to reach out to them. So try to push them to whatever the best next step is, right? Another really good one would be to say, thanks so much for signing up. In the meantime, why don't you go check out our business page and like it, right? Because you want to get them into your system a little bit. So you could go ahead and put the website link. You could just make a link to your business page. Just go ahead and copy the URL for your business page on Facebook, put it in there, and if they go ahead and like your page, now you've got an additional way that you can communicate with them. Okay, so I want to get to the messenger ads in a second, but I just want to pause real quick. Are there any questions on the setup system for the lead ads? Okay, we'll go ahead and close that out. And I'm going to say okay. Facebook is nice in the sense that it always asks you before it leaves, so you don't just erase a bunch of stuff you've done without realizing what you're doing, right? So it's going to, hey, are you sure you want to close this? You typed a bunch of stuff, and I'm just saying okay because I don't need it. And then once we get back here, the new lead form would be here, and then we just click confirm, and that's going to submit our ad for review and start the advertising process. Okay, so that's a lead ad. Now let's go ahead and take a look at a messenger ad. All right. So you go back to the campaign. Where you choose your objective is always what you tell. It's always going to be where you tell Facebook what you want to have the ads do. So we're going to go back to messages instead of lead generation. And then the same thing. We're going to go ahead and name it. So we'll say first time buyers again. So the objective is to start messenger conversation. All right, click continue. Now, if you don't change that, you're not going to have the option to drive them to your messenger. So you do have to make sure you select the right objective for the campaign. Now, you'll probably already notice that when we get to this step, it already looks different because right up here, this was not there before. Because what we're trying to do is get them to click a message. Sorry. That's where we're going to leave it at. This other setting is you can have existing conversations you drive them to. You probably don't want to mess with that for now. So you want to, the target here is to just have them click and start a messenger conversation with your page. Again, same thing. You're going to set up your audience the exact same way. One quick thing I want to mention here is you see this button at the bottom that says save this audience. Once you make an audience, if you did a lot of work to create it, just go ahead and save it. That way you can always access it again. And it's just really easy to access. Is you click on saved audiences and you can come down and pick the audience you want. So really easy. So for example, we have an audience of all the real estate agents in the greater St. Louis area, and we can just go back and select it every time we want to use it. So we'll go back to create new. All right. So if you have an audience you want to save, click that there. Then you're going to set your budget. So it kind of skipped over the step last time. So just a quick refresher. It's automatically going to be set to daily budget, but you can switch that to total budget, which is what lifetime budget means. If you are not going to be checking this very often, I'd really recommend using lifetime budget and not daily budget. I've heard many stories of people who forgot they were running an ad and then spent hundreds, if not thousands of dollars accidentally. Their ad obviously wasn't very good, because if it was, they would have been getting messages and remembered that they were running an ad. So that's two bad things in combination. That's not good. So lifetime budget will keep you from doing that. And if you do select lifetime, you can then select how long you want the ad to run. You have a start and an end date. You even have a start and an end time. So if you wanted to do something crazy and have like a 3-hour period on a Friday where your ad pops up and says, oh my gosh, I've got 3 hours of time available, send me a message and we can chat about real estate, you can get kind of creative with how you run your ads. Not many do. No, I mean, like so you have, in terms of Facebook advertising, you have like the e-commerce companies and the tech startups who have been running Facebook ads for years now, and then you have all the small businesses. And that kind of stuff, like some of the e-commerce companies and tech companies have experimented with and done a little bit with, and basically no small businesses have yet, right? So there's a lot of stuff here where it's like, it's still pretty open. You could try it, and it works, because if you say, hey, it's Thursday, let's chat, that ad catches more attention than an ad that doesn't say that, because it's more personalized to that person's experience. It's just more work too, right? So if you set up a bunch of different campaigns for different days, they're probably going to perform better, but you got to take all that time to set up the campaigns and monitor them and all that kind of stuff. So it's not common. I mean, you don't see a lot of that, but I think those are the kinds of things, again, back to my original point about do things people are not doing, right? If you do things they're not doing, you get people's attention, right? So like if you wear a full bodysuit of bright yellow, you're going to get attention because nobody does that, right? So same sort of thing. Whatever you can do to stand out. And those are kind of less aggressive, more subtle ways to do it. It's just by maybe showing an ad certain times a day or certain days of the week. It's also good for if you know things about people's behavior during certain times of day or certain days of the week, you can save some money by only showing them ads during that time. Because if you're, for instance, obviously the most obvious example is the holidays. So showing ads during that season versus another time. But things like, hey, people are behaving differently on the weekend than they are during the week. So between 9 and 5 o'clock on a weekday, they're probably at work. So you can talk to them about that. If it's on the weekend, they're probably sitting at their kid's soccer game looking at Facebook or something like that, right? So thinking about that kind of stuff, you can get a little more creative with it. All right, so now we're going into the actual setup, and this again is going to look similar. The messenger ads are actually, there's one less step because you don't have to set up the lead form. So let this load. So again, you got to select your page. We'll just go back to using my Nick Niehaus page again. Select your Instagram account. And then you can do single image, you can do carousel, video, or slideshow. Obviously, we've just been doing single image to keep things simple. Although I'm a huge proponent of video ads and even slideshow ads, which is basically you turn up to 10 images into a slideshow that has music. Those tend to catch people's eye a little bit better than just a single static image. You can also, if you do single images, you can select up to 6, so you can kind of experiment. So I'll just show you what that looks like. I'm just going to grab a couple of those real quick. So if I select 3 different pictures, it's actually going to create 3 different ads that are going to have the same copy, but they're going to have different pictures. And that can be interesting to see which picture draws people in, right? So a lot of what you're doing when you're running advertisements is you're experimenting. You're comparing one thing you do versus the other thing you do. And that's called A/B testing, and then seeing which one of those things works better. In this case, yes. So if you wanna do a true split test, a true A/B test, you would click this, which then actually segments that audience into 3 different groups and shows each ad only to that group, so you can actually get a statistically significant information. But a lot of times, if you just show all 3, you still learn a lot because it's still testing, right? Because I mean, if you see one picture and then the other, and you click on that, it still probably means that one's better. But you don't know if it's because you saw the other picture first, and you know what I mean? So if you want to do a true split test, go ahead and click that button there. So let's just show you what that does real quick. But the only problem with a split test is it does take up to at least 3 days, if not up to 14 days to show you a result, right? Because it'll tell you statistically significant results, which is nice. So now we'll just go into the setup here. It's the exact same thing. So you're going to want to write your copy. You have your headline, And you can see down here, it already says connect in Messenger, which doesn't really mean anything to anyone, so you probably want to change that. So just something that's a little bit more specific to what you're asking them to do, and obviously without misspelling things all over the place. Okay, then you put your text in, and then down here you have your call to action, which is automatically going to be send message, and you may want to leave that, or you still might want to change it to learn more. And part of that is because people are just so used to seeing the learn more button that we're just very accustomed to clicking on it. It's been on the internet for 2 decades at this point. Send message. I think sometimes people think if they click that button, they have to have a question ready to ask you, and they might not. So you may just want to have the learn more button selected, right? So a lot of times we'll go with that. And by the way, if you want to add even more text, so the text you put here is going to be above, and then the text you put there is actually below the image. So all that text shows up, the stuff here shows up here, stuff in the newsfeed description shows up below it. So this tends to get ignored. So don't put anything that's that important up there. Put your really important copy at the top. All right, and we're going to do, I guess you can add cash on delivery or free shipping as an overlay. Those don't apply to you. And then this is the additional step you have to do for Messenger is you're going to, you got 2 options here. So this is where you can, okay, so I mentioned this earlier, you can create a welcome message. So this is what it's automatically going to say. It's going to have these 3 questions here, all right? Not necessarily what you want. So you go ahead and click edit, and that's where you can change that. So it's going to say hi and then their first name, which is kind of cool. It's personalized. And then this is where you could say, All right, so it's lagging really bad, so that text will pop up at some point. And then these are the 3 questions. Now the nice thing about these frequently asked questions is that they're just buttons. So all somebody has to do is click one of them. They don't have to type anything out. All right? So you might want to say something that's obviously more specific to the ad you're running. And then these are where you're going to say, maybe I'm not ready to buy, but can I ask you some questions? Again, sorry about the internet. But you go ahead and type out your questions that you want them to ask, and that's going to get that conversation started. You don't have to have the questions, so we'll go back here. I'll just delete what I did there. If you use this one, use your bot's get started screen. That's going to just have it set up so it just pops up and has a button that says get started, and they click that, and then they can just ask questions to you. They have to opt in some form, so they have to click a button or say something in order for the system to start, like for your chat bot to start responding, for instance. That's why it either asks questions they can ask or it has a get started button, so it has to have one of those. But if you could also just have, go back to this. So yeah, in this form, it's always going to have the 3, but then also if you go to custom template, let's see what this does. So in this case, and again, I don't want to confuse everybody with too much information, but you can actually remove these if you do the custom template. So in this case, you would just say, hey, glad you're getting started, looking to stop renting. What questions do you have? Again, the more streamlined you make it, the more responses you're going to get. So if you give them buttons, you're probably going to get more responses than if you don't. But at the same time, if you want to only talk to people that are serious, this might be a way to screen them a little bit better, right? And in this case, you can send them a text. You can send them a text with an image, or you can also send them a text with a video, and that's probably the one I'd really recommend, because if you send this personalized message, and then it also has a quick video about like, hey, I'm so happy for you. It's a great process to get started. I'd love to answer your questions. Go ahead and reply to this with your questions. You're going to get more engagement from people That's probably going to help you out quite a bit. Okay. Again, we don't need that quick reply. All right, so we'll cancel that out. Oh. And then once your response is automated and set up and ready to go, you just go ahead and come down and click confirm, and that's going to submit, again, your ad for review. All right, so that's how you set up both the lead ads and the messenger ads. We have a couple more minutes here. Does anybody have any questions about this most recent one, the lead ad? I saw the messenger ad.